I'm still not convinced that his performance is particularly the best. That's not saying that, you know, we'll get to Begins and Dark Knight like later on down the line, but I'm not saying for a minute that Bale is better. I'm saying that he didn't do enough to make me think he was a good Batman.
You wanted to see like a big difference from his Bruce Wayne personality to his Batman one.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was getting at, and I did, and I don't think I really got that, and it kind of put me off it a bit. And you know, I'm not saying for a minute that Bale is better,
because Batman in the film really doesn't have all that much dialogue. He's this very silent, you know, he might only say one or two words at a time character, you know, coming out of the shadows, very silent, very, you know, methodical. But also Bruce Wayne, he has more dialogue, but he does seem very quiet and keeps to himself.
Yeah.
And I think that had Michael Keaton, you know, been a more brash, outgoing Bruce Wayne, I think you would have seen that big difference from that side to the Batman side, and that probably, you know, would have made him the best Bruce Wayne and Batman, arguably.
Yeah. I think that because he sort of stays at his sort of grim, dark, sort of not very nice looking Playboy mansion, that it kind of he sort of it seems like he's more a hermit than anything else. I mean, he has that one big party at his place, but that's about all we see of him going out and doing things. It seems he's more it does seem like he's sort of playing the same person. But then in comes Jack Nicholson. It's the Joker. I did not like the Joker at all in this.
And again, I absolutely love Jack Nicholson's portrayal of the Joker. To me, watching it as a live action version, I get more laughs out of the Jack Nicholson Joker because he's so quotable and he looks like he's having such a fun time playing it, and he really gets into the role. Although you could argue that there's not much difference from the Joker as a character and Jack Nicholson in real life, but you know, Jack Nicholson is iconic as the Joker.
You know, it is a more comical approach to the Joker, and I don't feel that, in my mind personally, comical doesn't necessarily equal better. I found that I mean, if you want to play it comically, that's fine. That's completely fine. I will buy it. I will get into it if that's what you're going for. But you've just got to be... It seemed like there was too much comedy coming through in his performance. It seems like, it feels to me like there wasn't enough balancing between menacing and being a comedian. It felt like he was too much of a comedian, and I did not feel at all threatened by this guy, this Jack Nicholson's Joker.
It isn't very consistent with the whole kind of you know, creepy and disturbing side. There's that one scene with the mob scene after he kills that guy, and it plays that quite intense, creepy music when he's like, "I'm glad you're dead," and then he bursts out laughing. Yeah. That was done well, and that was quite creepy.
See, go on.
You know, as you said, it is very hit and miss. Sometimes he is more comedic, and then other times he's more intense and, you know, disturbing. And that's why I quite like his character, because you never know which one he's going to be. But Jack Nicholson plays it as a very kind of sophisticated art lover who, after falls into acid, just snaps and is a completely different personality from how he was as Jack Napier.
Like, how would, like, he falls into acid, Surely his face would like melt.
I know the Joker in the comics has had a lot of, origin stories, or even no origins at all. But I know that one of them is where he falls into a pit of acid, and that's what bleaches his skin white.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only comic I've ever read is Watchmen, so I'm not big into comics, and I haven't read any of the sort of Batman comics, and I don't know what his origins are, or like if he has any origins, or this, that, and the other. But to me, that whole thing about him falling in the acid, it just seemed silly and a little bit ridiculous, and I didn't much buy it. And I think his the transformation he goes through, I mean, yes, it's a change, but surely by falling into a pit full of acid, you wouldn't be necessarily the jolliest person in the world. And
yeah, that's the one thing I will say that I don't like about the whole Jack Napier Joker personality, is that although he's a mob boss and he does seem, he seems fairly normal at the start, it's only when he falls into this acid that he has a complete U-turn of a personality and becomes this cackling, diabolical, Joker.
yeah,
And I don't know whether it had worked better if we had no origin at all and he just showed up, or whether the transition from, him falling into the acid was more, developed into his new personality.
yeah. See, you didn't really get enough time with Jack Napier to sort of really understand him as a person, and I think that's what kind of put me off Jack Nicholson's Joker, is that I didn't really see much because I didn't spend enough time with Jack Napier. Like, they didn't spend enough. Yeah, he's a presence at the beginning, but his character isn't that well developed to start out with.
We only really know that he's part of Grissom's mob gang. That's all we really know.
Yeah, and I felt he was playing it too comically, and I think that to me, what I felt was that it needed kind of that sort of balancing act between the comedic side, which is perfectly fine, but also the sort of darker side, the more menacing, threatening, the more sort of evil side. I mean, he was playing, to me, he was playing it a little bit too comically. And also, I'd like to ask the question, what the fuck was Joker's plan? Like what was it? Like,
he has this motive where he sees he's an art lover, and once he falls into this acid, he has this kind of psychotic, change around where he likes to see people in pain, like, through murder. He thinks that is the perfect art. It's like when he's looking at Vicky Val's portfolio, he's like, crap, and then he finds a dead body and he's like, now that's good work. And he does it in the museum scene as well, where one of his henchmen goes to hack at a painting with dead bodies on it, and he says, I like this one, Bob, leave it.
I don't know, I'm not sure about that. I felt like it was a bit tacked on, and surely if he's poisoned the sort of makeup and stuff like that, has Gotham City ever heard of something called quality control? Surely they would test stuff like this to make sure it's like, I don't know, but
and towards the end he seems to have a different change of motive, where he says that he's going to dump, I think it's $10 million worth of cash out to the people of the citizens of Gotham, and then in their greed he then attempts to gas them all with poisonous Joker gas, and it's like, was this to show that greed is bad, or was it to get a kick out of it just killing people?
Yeah, that to me felt a little tacked on.
It seemed they just needed something for the action climax, something big for Batman to have to go out and stop.
Yeah, well, I think that's a perfectly good point, and I'd also like to sort of expand it and say that to me, he sort of they didn't really to me they didn't. It seemed to me they didn't really know what his big sort of evil scheme was. So they thought, oh right, how are we going to make this action flow? How are we going to get from one scene to the next? And what could his evil plan? I know, he could infect makeup. Why? Because I don't know. Just write it down and put it in the script. There we go, done. It didn't feel natural to me. It seemed tacked on, and the breathing as well. Jack Nicholson's constant was absolutely irritating me from throughout.
I don't know that bit. What's that?
Basically, when he constantly does this heavy breathing, like he can't breathe through the makeup, like the prosthetic he's wearing, it seems to me like he does really heavy breathing. I'm not sure whether that's character or whether he just can't breathe through all the prosthetics on his face.
I've never noticed that before since watching it. I'll have to watch out for that next time.
Yeah,
I've never noticed that.
He really breathes heavily. He really does go there. He does do that a lot, and it got on my nerves. So yeah, that's and also another thing. It seems you have a film called Batman.
Yeah.
And Batman isn't in it, or hardly in it at all.
The film does seem to be centered more on the. I mean, we don't get an origin for Batman. We get an origin for the Joker, and the Joker does seem to have a lot more focus in the film. But even in the opening credits, Jack Nicholson gets top billing.
Yeah. Because
I suppose if you have Jack Nicholson in the film, you have to give him top billing.
Yeah.
As an actor, I think I'm not sure if he's a bit of a diva like that, but at the time, I know he was a very incredibly popular actor, so you'd have that actor factor to draw the audiences in. So
yeah, I think that's another thing. He's in it too much for me. There's no we have a film called Batman. I'd like to see Batman, please, not the villain that you've decided to sort of add in as sort of to try and thwart Batman, and it felt like he was in it too much, and it also felt like they pulled a villain out of the hat, out of the villain machine, and thought, okay, we'll just have the Joker in this one, and then what's in the next one? That's what it sort of. That's what I thought. Oh, that's something. Kim Basinger as the love interest.